My name's Elias, and this happened 2 years ago when I was house-sitting for my uncle. He lives in a remote cabin in northern Vermont, surrounded by dense forest. He went to Florida for the winter, so I agreed to stay there to keep the pipes from freezing and watch the place. It sounded perfect, a week of total isolation, video games, and relaxation. But what happened on my third night changed the way I look at the dark forever. It was around 7 p.m. It had been snowing heavily all afternoon, burying the driveway in a thick white blanket. I was in the living room, heating up some leftover stew and watching a movie. The cabin was dead silent, apart from the wind howling against the timber walls. Because it was so quiet, I heard the noise immediately. It cut through the sound of the wind. It was whistling, slow, melodic whistling. I paused the movie and held my breath. The sound was coming from the front porch. Someone was whistling the tune of Silent Night, but it was too slow, almost dragging, and it sounded horribly off-key. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. The nearest neighbor was 3 miles away. No one should be walking up here in a blizzard. I walked to the front door and looked through the peephole. The porch light was on, illuminating the falling snow. Standing there, facing the door, was a tall man. He was wearing a dirty, torn parka that looked way too thin for the freezing temperature. He wasn't moving. He was just staring at the wood of the door, whistling that same tune over and over again. I didn't open the door. I didn't even want him to know I was there. I watched him for about 2 minutes. He didn't blink. He just whistled. Finally, the tune stopped. He took a step back, looked directly at the peephole, as if he knew I was watching, and smiled. It was a white, unnatural grain. Then he turned and walked off the porch, disappearing into the darkness of the side yard. I checked the deadbolt 3 times. My heart was pounding. I grabbed my phone, thinking about calling the police, but I hesitated. I thought maybe it was just a drunk hunter or a lost hiker. I went to the kitchen to grab a knife, just in case. About 10 minutes passed. I was starting to calm down, telling myself he was gone. Then I heard a tap on the glass. I spun around. The cabin has a large sliding glass door in the back that looks out into the woods. Standing right against the glass was the man. He wasn't whistling anymore. He was pressing his face against the pane, his breath fogging up the glass. His eyes were wide and manic, staring right at me. I shouted at him to leave, screaming that I had a gun, even though I didn't. He didn't react to my voice. He just raised his hand and slowly dragged his fingernails down the glass. The sound was screeching and awful. Then he snapped. He threw his entire body weight against the sliding door. The glass shuddered violently. He didn't scream like a human. He let out this high-pitched, laughing shriek that sounded like a wild animal. He pulled back and slammed against the glass again. Thud. 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 The lock was rattling. I could see the frame bending. I ran. I sprinted into the bathroom, which had no windows, and locked the door. I dialed 911, my hands shaking so hard I dropped the phone twice. I whispered to the operator that a man was breaking in. I sat in a bathtub, clutching the kitchen knife, listening to the sounds from the living room. The banging continued for what felt like an hour, though it was probably only minutes. Then, silence. I stayed in that bathroom until I saw the blue and red lights flashing through the crack under the door. When the police cleared the house, the man was gone. The sliding glass door was cracked down the middle, but it had held. Outside, the snow was trampled. They found footprints all around the house. The disturbing part wasn't just that he tried to get in. The police found footprints leading from the woods to the window, showing that he had been standing there, watching me eat dinner for at least 20 minutes before he ever started whistling. They never caught him. I packed my bags that night and drove home in the snowstorm. I haven't been back to the cabin since. This story takes place about 12 years ago, when I was 8 years old. My birthday's in October, so my parents decided to take me to the huge state fair that comes to town every autumn. I was obsessed with roller coasters, and for a kid my age, this was the biggest event of the year. I remember the lights, the smell of fried dough, and the massive crowds. It was supposed to be a night of celebration, but now, looking back, I realize how close I came to disappearing forever. We had been at the fair for a few hours. My parents won me a giant stuffed bear at one of the ring toss games. and I was on top of the world. Around 9 p.m., the park was packed. We were standing in line for a hot dog stand near the edge of the fairgrounds. My dad realized he forgot his wallet in the car, so he ran to get it. My mom was busy ordering food at the window. I stepped away from her for just a second to throw a wrapper in a trash can about 20 feet away. As I dropped the wrapper in, a hand touched my shoulder. I turned around and saw a man standing there. He was tall, wearing a generic blue windbreaker and a baseball cap pulled low. He was smiling, but it didn't reach his eyes. He leaned down and asked, "Hey, are you looking for your dad?" I nodded stupidly. I wasn't lost, but I knew my dad had gone to the parking lot. The man said, "He's actually over by the west gate entrance. He sent me to come get you, so you don't have to wait in the cold. Come on, go." He reached out and grabbed my hand. His grip was firm. Too firm. Being a kid, I just went with him. We started walking away from the food stands, moving toward the darker perimeter of the fairgrounds, where the carnival workers parked their trailers. The noise of the rides started to fade behind us. We walked for maybe 2 minutes. The crowd thinned out. That's when my stomach dropped. I realized we were heading toward an exit that led to a dark service road, not the main parking lot where our car was. I stopped walking and said, "My dad isn't this way." The man didn't stop. He yanked my arm hard, pulling me off my feet, dragging me toward the shadows. "He's right over here," he grunted, his voice suddenly angry. Panic setting. I dug my heels into the dirt and screamed, "No." I twisted my arm as hard as I could. The man wasn't expecting me to fight. His grip slipped just enough for me to tear my hand away. I didn't look, but I sprinted as fast as I could back toward the lights and the music. I found my mom still at the food stand, looking around for me. I didn't tell her what happened. I was scared she would get mad at me for walking away, so I just said I went to the bathroom. My dad came back a few minutes later, and we ate our food. I thought I was safe. We left the fair about an hour later. We were driving down the long, unlit country road that leads back to the highway. It was pitch black. Outside, I was in the back seat, half asleep, when a pair of high beams flooded our car from behind. A truck was riding our bumper, dangerously close. My dad tapped the brakes to signal them to back off, but the truck sped up. It swerved into the other lane and pulled up right beside us. I looked out my window, and my heart stopped. It was him, the man from the fair. He wasn't looking at the road. He was staring directly at me in the back seat, a sick grin on his face. He honked his horn long and loud, then slammed on his brakes and disappeared behind us into the darkness. My parents were freaked out by the aggressive driver, but they didn't know who it was. I was too terrified to speak. We got home around midnight. I went straight to bed, pulling the covers over my head. I eventually drifted off to sleep, but I woke up a few hours later. I had that feeling like I was being watched. I looked at my bedroom window. We lived on the first floor. The blinds were slightly open. Pressed against the glass was a face. It was the man. He was cupping his hands around his eyes, peering into my room. When he saw me sit up, he didn't run. He just tapped his finger against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. I screamed. My parents burst into the room within seconds. But by the time my dad ran outside with a flashlight, the yard was empty. They found boot prints in the mud right under my window. I never went back to that fair. And for years, I couldn't sleep without the blinds nailed shut. The police never found him. But sometimes, when I'm driving on dark roads at night, I still check the rearview mirror, expecting to see that truck pulling up beside me. I still have nightmares about the decision I made that night. It was early November, and my wife, Sarah, and our 7-year-old daughter, Lily, wanted to get out of the city to see the meteor shower. We live in Colorado, so we decided to drive up into the foothills where the light pollution wouldn't be an issue. It was supposed to be a wholesome family memory, but it turned into a fight for our lives. We found a secluded dirt road that wound up the side of a mountain. It was miles away from the nearest house. We parked the truck in a small clearing surrounded by tall pines. It was pitch black, the kind of darkness that feels heavy. We turned off the headlights and got out. The silence was absolute, except for the wind moving through the treetops. For the first 20 minutes, it was magical. We laid a blanket on the hood of the truck and watched the sky. But then, The atmosphere shifted. I heard the sound of gravel crunching. It wasn't an animal. It was the rhythmic, heavy step of boots. I sat up and shined my flashlight down the dark road we had just driven up. About 50 yards away, just at the edge of the beam's reach, a man was standing there. He wasn't moving. He was just watching us. He was dressed in dark, heavy clothing, but he had no flashlight, no gear, nothing. He was just standing in the freezing dark. "Hello," I called out, my voice echoing awkwardly. The man didn't answer. He took a step forward, then another. His movements were jerky and strange. Sarah grabbed Lily and pulled her off the hood. "Get in the truck," she whispered. Her instinct was faster than mine. I jumped into the driver's seat and locked the doors just as the man reached the edge of the clearing. He stopped about 10 feet from my bumper. In the glow of the dashboard lights, I saw his face. He was smiling, but his eyes were wide and unblinking. He looked like he was high on something, or completely deranged. I started the engine and threw it into reverse to turn around. As the headlights swept across the tree line on the left, my heart stopped. There were 3 other men standing in the trees. They weren't hiding anymore. They were walking toward the truck. One of them was holding something long and metallic, a tire iron or a crowbar. I realized this wasn't a random encounter. They had been waiting for us. I slammed on the gas, trying to spin the truck around. As I completed the turn, the first Monda one from the road lunged at my window. He slammed his fist against the glass, screaming something I couldn't understand. It sounded like gibberish. I floored it, heading back down the narrow dirt road. But as we picked up speed, the truck suddenly lurched violently to the right. The steering wheel jerked in my hands. I knew instantly what it was. They had set a trap further down the road. We had hit a spike strip or a board with nails. "Keep going. Don't stop," Sarah screamed. I didn't let up. I drove on the rim. The truck was shaking and making a horrible grinding noise. But I knew if I stopped, we were dead. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw the red glow of brake lights, reflecting off the figures running behind us. They were chasing the car on foot, sprinting with terrifying speed. We drove like that for 3 miles, until we hit the paved highway. The tire was completely shredded, sparks flying from the rim. I didn't stop until we reached a gas station 15 minutes away. When the police went back to the scene later that night, they found a makeshift board with 6-inch nails buried in the dirt road. They also found a campsite deep in the woods, filled with stolen camping gear, wallets, and IDs from other people. The police told us it looked like a group of drifters had been using that road to ambush tourists for weeks. They never found them in. They vanished into the mountains. I sold that truck a week later. I could unlook at it without remembering the sound of that man's fist slamming against the glass, trying to get to my daughter. I've never liked clowns, and after what happened when I was 10 years old, I can't even look at one without shaking. It was a Saturday afternoon in late October. My parents had run out to the grocery store, leaving me alone for maybe 45 minutes. I was in the living room playing video games when the doorbell rang. We weren't expecting anyone, and usually, my parents would text me if they were coming back early. I paused my game and walked to the front door. I was too short to look through the peephole comfortably, so I dragged a dining chair over to the door to stand on it. When I looked through the glass, my blood ran cold. Standing on our front porch was a man in a full clown costume. It wasn't a friendly, colorful circus clown. The suit was faded and dirty, like it had been in a basement for 20 years. His face paint was smeared, and he was holding a bunch of black balloons. He was just standing there, staring right at the door, swaying slightly back and forth. I didn't say anything. I just wanted him to go away. But then he leaned close to the door, pressing his painted ear against the wood. "Is the birthday boy home?" he whispered. His voice was gravelly and low. I mustered up my courage and yelled through the door, "You have the wrong house. There's no birthday here." The clown didn't leave. Instead, his expression changed. He stopped swaying. "Are you sure?" "Ask it. Maybe I should come in and check." "Are your parents there?" That question set off every alarm bell in my head. I remembered my dad telling me never to let strangers know I was alone. I stepped down from the chair and backed away. "My dad is in the shower." I lied, my voice shaking. "He's a cop." The clown went silent. Then, without a word, he grabbed the door handle and twisted it violently. The lock held, but the door shook in its frame. He didn't knock anymore. He slammed his shoulder against the wood, trying to force it open. I screamed and ran into the kitchen. I grabbed the landline phone and dialed my mom's cell number. As it rang, I heard heavy footsteps running around the side of the house. He was going to the back door. The back door was mostly glass. If he broke it, he would be inside in seconds. I scrambled into the pantry and shut the door, curling up into a ball in the dark. I was sobbing quietly into the phone when my mom finally answered. I screamed that a clown was breaking in. "We're in the driveway," she yelled. "We're pulling in right now." I heard the sound of our garage door opening, followed by my dad's car tires screeching on the pavement. Then I heard shouting outside. "Hey, get away from there," my dad roared. I heard the sound of someone scrambling over the back fence, followed by my dad chasing after him. My mom ran inside and found me in the pantry. They never caught the guy. My dad said by the time he got over the fence, the clown had jumped into a rusted van and sped off. We found out later that no one in the neighborhood had hired a clown. He had been walking door to door, looking for houses where no cars were in the driveway. To this day, I keep my doors locked. Even when the whole family is home,